Welcome to Additional Scale Modelling. This is part 3 of AMT's Star Trek USS Enterprise NCC 1701E. Scale is 1 to 1400. In this part I'm going to be carrying on with the main hull, preparing for the lights and opening up the windows. Also I'm going to be looking at the main shuttle bay, or shuttle bay 2 it might actually be. And I'll be working on opening up the areas and painting. So let's jump into this and see how well I get on. Starting where I left off, and I'm carrying on drilling the holes in the windows, I should say, for the main hull section of the Enterprise A. And it's like in the part 2, it's the same way I'm doing things, drilling 2 holes, then cutting away the excess with the hobby knife. My attention's turned to the clear parts now, and first of all I'm going to paint the deflector dish. So for the borders I'm using River Aquacolor 76 light grey, and I'm applying this with a cocktail stick. And using the cocktail stick, it just gives me a little bit better control painting in the lines on the deflector dish. If you haven't used this method before, it's quite simple. If your cocktail stick hasn't got a fine point on it, just file it down until you're happy with a fine point. Then you would just use it in the same way you would use the paintbrush, but with it being a hard point at the end, you get a little bit better control on straight lines. I'm then moving over to River Aquacolor 730 clear orange for the deflector dish, and I'm painting the back part only. So all the little grey lines I've painted in, they'll stay there and won't be damaged or smudged, and the back colour will shine through, so it looks like it's all painted as one without using any mask. And then it's River Aquacolor 752 blue clear, and this is for the nacelles. All these clear paints will need at least 2 to 3 coats before the colour builds up. It's a very thin paint, so it does take a little bit while for the pigment to build up. There is another method that I use to add depth of field to these clear parts, but I'll get to that in another part of the video. So now I'm moving on to River Aquacolor 731 red clear, and this is for the end part of the nacelles as well as the impulse engines. You can see it's a very washed out colour to begin with. You really do have to build up the layers on this clear paint. And now moving on to the viewing area above the shuttle bay, and what I'm pointing out there with the cocktail sticks is the areas that I'm having to remove. Now these areas are in a triangular sort of shape. So again, I've drilled a couple of holes, and I'm just gently taking my knife down and removing the material. Now you'll notice where my finger is. That's just how I do it, but be very careful. If that knife slips, you will slice open your finger. I've done it a couple of times, but just be aware that's a possibility. I know it sounds a bit obvious, but it does happen quite a lot. So this will take quite a while to do. You've got to work in a very thin frame, so when you're removing the parts, you have to be extremely careful, and it will take you a lot of time to actually remove them. Even if you have a power drill, an automatic drill, that will not get into the edges of the framework. You will still have to use a hobby knife to get rid of any excess material. Where my finger is where that part's going to go, but as you can see it's a solid piece of plastic, and that material will have to be removed in order for the light to come through. So I'm just using my side snipes to get rid of the plastic, and then I'm just cutting very thin strips, but I'm leaving an outside border around it so that the part that's going onto it has got room to bond to the model. Often you get carried away and you can cut right to the edge of the plastic and realise you may not actually have enough for the weld to happen. So just bear that in mind if you're having to remove large quantities of plastic like this. And once I've removed it, I'll just test fit to make sure I think I've got enough light coming through. And if you can just about make it on the camera, you can see it there. Now on the back plate there's more plastic to be removed, but now I've got the unit in place, I can then mark out what I have to remove. And I'll simply use my pencil to mark out the area that I want to be removed. Now, don't be tempted to take all of this off. There is another piece later on in the build that will come off, but that's more of a little crescent shape that is going to be coming off. Just try and move my camera so you can see what I'm doing here. It's an awkward angle, so I'm just using my pin drive to make the pilot hole before I move it. It's a little bit awkward because, as I said, there's two holes, two parts I'm going to be removing, but I want to keep some of the bulkhead as such intact. Hence why I'm doing it this way. And once I've made my pilot holes, I'm just placing my knife inside the holes and twisting it around to start removing the plastic. And once I've got a big enough hole, and then just use my very thin saw here just to remove the bulk of the plastic that I require to light the lights in. It's not really that complicated. If I just pull it up to the camera there, you can see the hole there. And once the part goes on, that'll marry up with the viewing platform as such. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's above the shop bay anyway. And I'll just check to make sure that I can see right through it, so you know then, of course, whatever LED lights you place in, that's going to shine through. Moving on to Revit Color 77 Dust Grey, and this is for the bottom part where the viewing platform is, so it's actually the shuttle bay doors, I think. No, it's a clear plastic part, but really they should be painted out. So I painted the back part with the 77 Dust Grey, then the framework I'll be painting it in Revit Color 76 Light Grey, like the other little parts that I painted with this colour, like the deflector dish. So and I'm just running the paintbrush over the reverse side, the raised side of this piece. So again, the colours are not going to get mixed up. If you go over the lines here, you can quite happily use your cocktail stick to get rid of any excess, because your main colour is on the other side, so you don't have to worry about scratching away paint that you've already placed on. So as you can see that I'm almost finished this particular process, just putting in the final touches. It's now time to fit it, and there has a little house in it, just pops into. You may find it a little bit tricky, but it should just pop straight in underneath the viewing platform. I should add, I've already added the viewing platform there at the top. That's actually in position now, but it's just a case of pushing it on. So now I'm just going back to the saucer section, and there's a little bit of tidy up work I have to do. There's actually not much. At the first glance I thought there was quite a bit, but there's not. It's just tiny little bits of plastic that have to be smoothed down. So I'm taking the excess off with my hobby knife. I use the actual rim of the section as a guide, so that I don't, if I do slip, I'm not going to take chunks of plastic away. And just before I end part 3, I'm just going to remove the little bit of plastic I need at the bottom of this bulkhead. This is where the power cables are going to be passing through. So I'm just taking a little crescent shape of plastic out, removing it with my snips. Being careful not to encroach on the hole that I've already made for the lights, because then you may get a bit of paint bleed, hence why there's two different openings here. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit that like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.